Hello everyone, this is Malik with Lernova, and in this video we are talking about misplaced and dangling modifiers. First of all, what is to modify? To modify something is to describe it, is to explain it, is to define it, is to give more information and details about it. What is a misplaced modifier then? A misplaced modifier is a word or a phrase that modifies another word or phrase, but it's located a little bit far away from the word that it is supposed to describe. So it wrongly describes something else, and of course, delivers something completely different from the original meaning of the sentence. Take a look at this example. Alex saw a lot of monkeys on vacation in India. On vacation in India, Alex saw a lot of monkeys. You can easily figure out here the modifier on vacation in India. In the first example here, on vacation in India is located right next to the monkeys. In the second example, it's located right next to Alex. Being located falsely next to the monkeys gives this wrong meaning of the sentence. The reader would understand that the monkeys were on vacation when Alex saw them. That's completely wrong. But in the second example here, the modifier on vacation in India is located next to Alex, which suggests that Alex is the one who was on vacation in India when he saw a lot of monkeys. The first sentence is using a misplaced modifier. What is a dangling modifier then? A dangling modifier is a modifier that describes the wrong word. It modifies the wrong word or phrase. That's because it is describing something that doesn't even exist in the sentence. Take a look at this example. Trying to fall asleep. The sheets felt uncomfortably hot. Trying to fall asleep, I felt uncomfortably hot in the sheets. In the first example, the modifier is placed next to the sheets. In the second example, it's placed next to I. Well, the second example is using the modifier correctly because it suggests that I was trying to fall asleep when I felt hot in the sheets. The first example, though, is using a dangling modifier because you cannot locate anything in the sentence that is trying to fall asleep. Not the sheets, not hot, not felt, not uncomfortably. There isn't a person in the sentence here. So this modifier is describing a person, and that person is not even in the sentence. It doesn't exist. That's the difference between misplaced and dangling modifiers. This is what happens when you use the modifier incorrectly. That's the meaning delivered to the reader. This example here says, after being shrunk in the wash, Lisa no longer fits in her favorite sweater. After being shrunk in the wash, that's our modifier. And the modifier here is placed next to Lisa. Now ask yourself a question. What's being shrunk in the wash? It's definitely the sweater, right? But in this case here, it's placed next to Lisa, which falsely suggests that Lisa was shrunk in the wash. And that's exactly what the reader is going to understand from that sentence. It is super important to place the modifier right next to the thing that it's meant to modify. Now let's practice. Let's try to find a misplaced or dangling modifier in that sentence here. Built during the Great Depression, more than 1 million people in the southwestern United States receive hydroelectric power from the Hoover Dam. One of the hardest things here for students is to successfully locate the modifier, right? The modifier, guys, could be one word, okay? And it could be a phrase, right? But it's a descriptive element. It's an element that always try to describe something, okay? So in that sentence, for example, here we got two different elements. From the Hoover Dam, that's one element, and built during the Great Depression, that's another element, okay? Now, from the Hoover Dam is a prepositional phrase, okay? And it's placed right next to the power or the hydroelectric power, okay? So ask yourself a question now. Is the power meant to be from the Hoover Dam? Yeah. What's from the Hoover Dam? It's the power. The power comes from the Hoover Dam. Yeah, okay, then this is not a misplaced modifier because the modifier is placed right next to the power, which is meant to be, described by the Hoover Dam. Now, in the first one here, it says built during the Great Depression. That one here is placed next to the people, more than 1 million people. So do you think more than 1 million people were built during the Great Depression? That's completely wrong. Ask yourself a question now. What was built during the Great Depression? It's the Hoover Dam. So why would you place this modifier next to the people when it's meant to be next to the Hoover Dam? Okay. I hope that example here gives you a clear picture about misplaced modifiers. Let's skip this one here, go for another one there. Yep, I like this one. This is a pretty easy one, actually. It says, made with dark chocolate and peanut butter, dips mouth, watered at the sight of the dessert. Mm-hmm. Well, you can see here that we got a participle phrase, okay, which is made with dark chocolate and peanut butter. All right. Well, ask yourself a question now. What is made with chocolate and peanut butter? Is it dip's mouth? No, it's definitely the dessert. So why would you place all this modifier next to the mouth when it's supposed to be next to the dessert? Because it's simply describing the dessert, right? So the misplaced modifier here is made with darker chocolate and peanut butter. Here's another example. That's an example for dangling modifiers, not misplaced modifiers, okay? The example here says, sleeping in a hammock, the branches over Finn's head formed a sort of gently swaying ceiling. Okay, well, in this sentence, we got two modifiers here, over Finn's head and sleeping in a hammock, okay? Well, the second one here, over Finn's head, is located right next to the branches. So, is it the branches that was supposed to be over Finn's head? Yeah, the branches are over his head. Yeah, over his head, it describes the branches. That's fine. Take a look at the second one here. Sleeping in a hammock. Okay, it's located next to the branches. So you think the branches are sleeping in a hammock? No. Someone obviously is sleeping in a hammock while the branches were over his head. Okay, now who is that person sleeping in a hammock in that sentence here? Is there a person here in the sentence who I can say that, you know, he was supposed to be sleeping in the hammock, or the phrase here or the modifier here, sleeping in the hammock, is describing him? No. You get branches, you get Finn's head. I'm not talking about Finn, it's Finn's head, okay? There's the ceiling. Yeah, but there isn't a person here that could be described as sleeping in a hammock. So the modifier sleeping in a hammock describes a person or a word that doesn't even exist in the sentence. That's the dangling modifier. Here's a different type of questions that will help you get the idea, okay? In August 2013, the airplane powered by solar energy named Solar Impulse flew across the United States. In August 2013, the airplane named Solar Impulse, powered by solar energy, flew across the United States. You can see here that the modifier is placed in two different locations in those sentences here. The first one here is placed next to the solar energy, and the second one here is next to the airplane. Now think about it. What is named Solar Impulse? Is it the airplane or is it the energy? Obviously the airplane, right? You would give a name to an airplane, not to the solar energy. So yeah, the second sentence here is the one using the modifier correctly. I know you're getting bored, so this is going to be our last example for today. The example says, though exhausted by the effort, the iron gate refused to budge, no matter how hard I pushed. Okay, fine. All right, take it easy now. Think about the modifier. You may pause the video and search for the modifier. Now, the modifier is though exhausted by the effort. That's correct. Okay. Now, who was exhausted by the effort? So the sentence here suggested that I was trying to push the gate open, but it didn't work. Okay, fine. So who was exhausted, or what was exhausted by the effort? You think the gate was exhausted by the effort, or I was exhausted by the effort? Obviously I. So why would you place the modifier exhausted by the effort next to the gate instead of next to I? Yeah, well, the sentence is not using the modifier correctly here. I hope this gives you a better understanding about misplaced and dangling modifiers. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.